Welcome into NHL Tonight First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union for a Wednesday, April the 30th, 2025, the last day of April. And with that, we welcome in Mike Kelly, back up north of the border. Kels, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Playoff hockey, it's crazy every year. Every day it just continues to surprise me. I don't learn how crazy it is, but it's awesome. These games have been so good.
Did you get into Montreal for any games over the two games that were played up there over the weekend?
I did. I was there for game
jealous.
4 Sunday.
Jealous.
Yeah. I used to live there, and I went to a lot of games at the Bell Center, and a Tuesday in February is amazing. Mm-hmm. And I was there for playoffs and cup final games in COVID, but it's different because there was limited fans.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've really been there in a long time for a full playoff experience. Mm-hmm. Nothing like it in the NHL. It's just something different and a really fun atmosphere.
Yeah, two great games up there, and the team split. They play again tonight. We will get to that in a bit, but first things first, tip of the cap to the Carolina Hurricanes, the first team to advance to the second round, and it was not easy. They had to overcome a 3-0 deficit in the first period, and then they had to go double OT, but on the power play, Sebastian Aho with the game winner. And Mike, this game just went to second overtime, really only because Jacob Markstrom just kept the Devils in the game as the Canes just got better and better throughout. You can see they've advanced, and they'll take on the winner of the Caps and the Habs. So what did you make of the game last night? And really Markstrom's performance, because he stood out, ends up on the losing end, but he played very, very well.
Yeah, he was incredible. One of the better games by a goalie in these playoffs. Objectively, statistically, he was fantastic. And one of those games where you kind of just, if you're an objective viewer, start rooting a little bit for that team because you're like, this guy's putting on such a clinic. And I want series to go longer. I want to watch more hockey. So he was great. At the end of the day, though, for me, Carolina, just given the injuries on the back end for New Jersey, obviously Jack Hughes being out of this lineup affects them in a lot of ways. The transition game especially, it massively cripples it. And Carolina probably would have been a little much for the Devils to handle, all things being equal, but given where things are at going into this series, it's a team that pressures you so much. And you knew that the puck was going to be in New Jersey's end most of the series, as you see by the ozone possession time there it was. The thing at the bottom is what stands out to me. The rush chances were 48-12 in this series for Carolina, which is kind of a chip and chase team. It just shows you again how much Jack Hughes was missed, and really Carolina kind of dominated in every facet of this series. And
a little tip of the cap as well to Brian Dumoulin. The Devils got him at the deadline from Anaheim, and Brian Dumoulin's been part of Cup winners in Pittsburgh, and he's deeper into his career. I didn't know if he had it in his bag to play 37 minutes and 19 seconds, and he was even in that stretch. So Brian Dumoulin probably earned himself, maybe a couple of more years in this league with the way that he was able to perform under tough circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Opportunity presents itself, right? And Sheldon Keefe spoke glowingly about Dumoulin and the impact that he had for the Devils in this series. So there are bright spots out of it for New Jersey. I think, you go into next year, the roster is not going to be identical. You are going to be healthy again, and it'll be a different team that we see coming through next year. And all things being equal, health-wise and everything, it should be more of a competitive team, probably a top 3 in the Metro team. So they put up a good fight, though. I give them credit.
And it was a good night for Taylor Hall because he ended up with scoring a goal against his former team, and afterwards ends up with a 3-year contract extension there. Not bad.
He's been a good fit there, right? When they brought him in, they thought that his speed and kind of power game would work well for how they like to, pressure pucks and the way that they like to play. And he's been a really good fit there. So Carolina's a team that's, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say going to make the playoffs the next 3 years because that's just what they do. So he's putting himself in a good position to hopefully go on a deep run, maybe this year or one of the next few, with a team that is going to be good.
The Devils got out to a lead in that game. What did you make of Peter Kochetkov's performance in the game? Because he is going to probably face a bigger challenge in the next round. Now, we don't know if Freddie Anderson can come back or not, how healthy he will be. If they have to go with Kochetkov, did you feel like in these couple of games he played well enough for you watching, and maybe with the numbers as well, to have confidence if he plays Washington or Montreal next, that he can keep this thing going for them.
I thought he was all right. And you know what? Freddie Anderson is the better goalie. The problem with Freddie Anderson is you don't know if he's going to be able to play at any given time because he gets injured a lot. So there is a difference in terms of the level of these two guys. Kochetkov, when he came in, I was pretty bullish on him. I don't know if it's going to take him longer to get to where at least I think he can get to, or if it will happen at all. Is he a competent goalie playing behind a very good possession-based, good defensive team? Yeah. So I don't know that he's going to outright lose you anything, but if you're going up against Washington and Logan Thompson, like the Capitals aren't going to get pushed off pucks and aren't going to get bullied around by Carolina. So we can have that conversation if we get there, I guess. Yeah. But Freddie's the better goalie. That's the thing. Even if he does come back, you never know. Is it going to be 1, 2, 3 more games before you find him out again?
Yeah. So we'll see. A little time off here. We'll see if Freddie can get back. I have a feeling for Carolina, even if he does, we'll probably be seeing both of those guys moving forward. But the Canes get the job done. They take advantage of a New Jersey team that was really beat up. They handle them in 5 games. They take care of business. So congratulations to Roddy Brindamore and that group. They move on, and they await the winner, as I said, of Montreal and Washington. Out west, it was a very interesting night in Vegas because, first of all, we had a Marc-Andre Fleury sighting. He had to come into the game in the third period when the goaltending, the goaltender got ill, Augusta got ill and couldn't continue. And Fleury played well in the third. He ends up losing this game. I don't know what he could have done in overtime on that chance by Howden, but this has been a great series, Mike, back and forth. Vegas wins in overtime, and Minnesota thought they had this game won with about 75 seconds left on the clock. Hartman scores. They review for whether it was kicked in, no, good goal, and then the Vegas Golden Knights challenge for offside, and by the thinnest of margins, Gustav Nyquist was offside, and the goal gets taken off the board. Vegas wins in overtime. Just a crazy finish there out west.
It was another heartbreaker for Minnesota too, right? And that look says it all right there, because that was an offside that's kind of avoidable.
Yeah.
And just, you don't want to see that, and it cost you big. And this is coming off of Game 4 at home, where Minnesota played such a gutsy game and ends up, losing in overtime as well. They've been outplayed in both of these games by Vegas, and really outplayed by Vegas in the series. So to not get one of those overtime wins and find yourself down 3-2 when you were this close to being up 3-2 and going home with a chance to close things out, that's got to sting. I give full marks to Minnesota for how many shots they've blocked in this series, how many puck battles they've won. They've really had to grind it out to keep these games close, I feel, and put themselves in a spot where they could win. And they've got a couple wins in the series. It's not over yet, but I think we're starting to see that Vegas is clearly the team that tilts the ice a little more. And for Fleury, like you mentioned, comes in, isn't busy at all for a while, and then bam, huge save. Like Flower just, he's doing his thing. And you're right, on that goal, that's a low to high goal.
Yeah.
We see goalies get beat on that all the time. You're not putting that on him.
Yeah, it's just kind of a tough spot to be thrown into, and just a crazy story. Just a crazy story we didn't expect, especially in Vegas, where he was an original misfit.
I know, and so good on him. The other thing too, and as it pertains to like Gustafsson and the goaltending in general, is Gustafsson was great. The first 3 games didn't allow any shots on any kind of traffic shots, screens, deflections, rebounds, but Minnesota was giving a lot up. 23 through 3 games, and I was wondering, is that dam going to burst? And it kind of has. The Stone goal, obvious screen in front of the net. We've seen a few more of those over the last couple of games. That's one area in this series as well where Vegas has had an advantage, is just loading bodies up and making it hard on the goalies. Gustafsson really held fort for the first 3 games, but it's starting to crater a little bit. So another thing to keep an eye on when you're watching Game 6 is can Minnesota try to keep some of these guys out of the goalie's way?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Game 6. Minnesota has played very, very well in this series. Winning teams, right? Teams that win the Stanley Cup, they find players and they were able to plug them into certain roles. And, Brett Howden is someone that was a late first-round pick of the Lightning. He came over to the Rangers in a trade, didn't really work out there. But Vegas, they acquire him, they find a place for him. 23 goals during the regular season this year. That's significant. And then he's been really a helpful player as a kind of guy they move around their lineup, and he comes up with the goal in overtime to get the job done and win the game.
Yeah, 3 goals in the series. Like, this guy's not just making a small impact.
No.
You're absolutely right. And Vegas has done this before, right? Where they find guys that just seem to fit in well with the way that they play and slot them in appropriate areas so they're not overextended. We're talking about the guy who scored the game-winning goal in Game 1, adds an empty netter, scores the overtime goal to give Vegas a 3-2 series lead. And that's the thing where Vegas, they've got Nick Waugh scored, and they're getting goals from up and down their lineup. They're getting goals from the blue line. They kind of roll 4 lines and play everybody. And, going back to the year they won the Stanley Cup, talking to people around there, I know that they talked about the importance of that for them, not only because you're not overextending your top guys, but everyone on the team feels like they have a role that matters.
Yeah.
And what that does for the psychology of a player in a team, I think, is pretty significant, or can be at least. And Howden right now knows he's an important player on this team. I think all those players do.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, this is what Vegas does, is they try to kind of grind you down over the course of a series. And I love, Nick Waugh, I've talked about many times, one of my favorite playoff players, because you can move him around the lineup. He can do so many things to help you win. And guys like that are really helpful players on good teams. You put them on teams that aren't as good, probably the role there for them, it's not ideal. They'll do their thing, but they're much better suited when they have those really good players in front of them that allow for them to kind of use those versatile skills to help you win. So congratulations to Howden. It's been a little bit of a ride for him to go from Tampa to the Rangers, and it looked like he was going to be one of those guys that never found his way, and he's found a home in Vegas, and the Golden Knights now with a 3-2 series lead. And out west, the Edmonton Oilers, they also have a 3-2 series lead. They went into L.A., a place where the Kings have really ruled this year and been great, and they picked a bad time, Mike, to play their worst home game of the year, or one of them, as the Oilers won 3-1. The game was a 2-1 game in the third period, really only because Darcy Kemper was brilliant throughout. The Oilers had a big advantage in the shots, and, you can see here, expected goals. I mean, you tell me, 8.2?
That's the highest that we've seen in 9 years as a company of tracking this.
Yeah.
EJ, like, you don't see 8 ever.
No.
And I mean, 17 shots from the inner slot for Edmonton. That's the most any team has had since 2016-17, when we started tracking this as a company. Not only was it the most expected goals in a game at 8.2, it was the biggest differential at 6.48 expected goals, the differential between the two teams that we have ever seen in a game. And it's not particularly close. I mean, all that to say, objectively, this was the biggest beatdown in 9 playoff years that we have seen. And for the Edmonton Oilers to come out and do this against an LA Kings team, this isn't an LA Kings team that snuck into the playoffs with kind of a 500-ish record. This is one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. And Edmonton made them look like, a team that just didn't belong in the same sheet of ice. So full marks to the Oilers. Evander Kane, what a game, what a playoff he's starting to put together for them over a few games. Darcy Kemper, like you said, we have that as the best goaltending performance of the playoffs in terms of goals saved above expected in a game that he lost. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
All things being equal, literally could have been 8.
Yeah, and he was great in the overtime in the game in Game 4 when the Oilers were able to win in overtime. If it wasn't for Kemper, that game would have been over very early in the overtime. It was only when the Oilers got a power play late in overtime they were able to score on them. So, I mean, why has this changed in your mind, Mike? I mean, the first 3 games of this series, really the first 4 games, the LA Kings, for large stretches of those games, were the better team. And then from the third period of Game 4 through Game 5, it looks like 2 completely different teams. Are the numbers telling you something? What are you seeing? Why is it so different? Because it looks dramatically different.
Oh, it does, because it is.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on this too, EJ, because I think there's probably a few different angles you can take with it. For me, looking at even the first 3 games, LA dominated the first 40 minutes in all those games, and then they would sit back against probably the worst team in the league you could sit back against, the Edmonton Oilers, and try to protect that lead. abandoning all the things that made them successful in the first 40 minutes. I've talked to players about this, kind of the score effects idea and protecting leads and all those things. I've had some guys say to me, it's not that we're being told to do it or even trying to do it, just subconsciously you find yourself doing it. Maybe there's an element of that. I'm not in that room. I don't know.
Yeah.
But sitting back in those first 3 games, late in games, was harmful for them. Obviously, the coach's challenge in game 3 that didn't go their way was huge in terms of swinging that game in the series. The other thing I look at is the distribution of ice time. Basically, LA is rolling 3 forward lines and 4 defensemen.
Yeah.
When I looked at this series coming into it, one of the things I pinpointed was I think the Kings' depth is going to give them an advantage in this series. Mm-hmm. And they've kind of effectively taken that away by going, heavy with 9 forwards and heavy with 4 defensemen. So now you start to wonder at this point in the series when it's close, 2-2, now 3-2, what do these guys have left versus the Oilers, who, when they're chasing the game, are kind of happy to roll their lines because they know they're not getting any pressure really against them.
Yeah. The thing I saw that I was really shocked by, I think it is a little human nature, Mike, for the players, in any sport where, like, you have a lead. Yeah. And you just don't want to make mistakes, and you play a little bit more conservative. And it's easy for us to sit on the outside and say, hey, you got to play the exact same way. And, maybe it can be difficult. Just, again, we're all human beings. We have a 3-goal lead. We're trying to protect that. I get it. But in Game 4, there was one sequence when I saw the Kings have all 5 players in the D zone when the puck was not in there. Like, I was like, is nobody going to come out of the D zone? Are they all just going to wait here? So I think that mentality just kind of infected their game to the point now where they've given Edmonton so much confidence. And Edmonton was a struggling team coming into this. They had a goalie issue at the start. They had problems on defense. They've allowed Edmonton's confidence to really grow in this series, and it has flipped things. I just think it's going to be really difficult when I look at what happened last night for the LA Kings to go into Edmonton and win. Now, maybe they will, but wow. I think watching them play last night, I just can't see that when they haven't been a good road team all year.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I think, and Edmonton's earned this, and I want to give them a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit for where they're at. But at the same time, I think you can make arguments this series could have been over for LA already in terms of winning it.
They could have swept the series.
Probably definitely should be up 3-2 at worst.
Yeah.
But some of these self-inflicted wounds, and you can point fingers wherever you want based on how you think about things, have really hurt them. So Kemper's been great. But I agree with you. You're going into Edmonton, tough place to play. And you are coming off the biggest beating in terms of just the flow of the game in at least 9 years. And you got to right that ship. That's a tall order. I really thought this Kings team was poised to go on a run in these playoffs. And I've been really surprised, I guess, by how things have unfolded over the last few games.
Yeah, it has been a shocking turnaround. But the Edmonton Oilers, they never quit. We saw that last year. And I think with a lesser group this year, still have those top-end guys, but as a whole, a little bit of a lesser group, that's their trademark. They don't quit. They don't give up. And then you got to beat them to finish. You got to finish them off. Kings haven't been able to do that, and now the Oilers have a chance to advance with a win at home in game number 6. Let's take a look at the board for tonight, Mike. We got 3 games on the agenda. The Caps are looking to close things out against Montreal at home in D.C., 7 o'clock ESPN, 7:30 in Tampa. The Florida Panthers, the defending champs, can do that as well. They can close things out with a win against the Lightning, 7:30 ESPN2, and then a little bit later on, 9:30 Eastern ESPN, the Blues and the Jets. That series is tied at 2. But let's talk about the Panthers and the Lightning, because this series has gotten progressively more nasty. The Battle of Florida has lived up to expectations in terms of 2 franchises, 2 teams that don't like each other all that much. And we had that crazy Game 4 that flipped in Florida's favor late. And then we had the Department of Player Safety weighing in after the Aaron Ekblad hit on Brandon Hagel, where he was not even penalized for that hit, but he gets a 2-game suspension. Were you surprised, Mike, at the 2 games? I was a little surprised. I thought it would be 1, I'm never unhappy when the punishment is a little bit more because I think it sends a better message. But were you surprised at all that it was more than just one?
No, and I'm kind of glad it was 2. I mean, there wasn't a penalty. Like if he had been given 5 in a game on the spot, then maybe it's 1. But that wasn't the case. There's obviously the history of what's been going on in the series. A lot of things to consider. I'm kind of glad it was 2. I thought it warranted 2. And at the same time, though, now you're kind of splitting hairs, like if you even want to look at it this way. But I think if Hagel's not going for Tampa Bay, I think that hurts them more than missing Ekblad in this particular game for Florida. Not even because Florida's up, but we're talking about a 90-point player here in Brandon Hagel, whose speed can be so disruptive. This one hurts Tampa Bay. Like you feel like the Lightning they gotta win this one at home. Right?
Well,
forget about coming back, winning the series.
Yeah.
Like, they got to get this.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't, they're out. And you said about Ekblad, the Florida played without Ekblad in the first 2 games of the series in Tampa and won both. So they probably feel like, we can get by for these 2 games. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, he was maybe making a statement about, like, you don't hit our captain, which, Hagel hit Barkov. And in the playoffs and, in hockey in general, I don't necessarily have a problem with you sending a physical message. And sometimes there's consequence for that. And now there's consequence. And that is also something that, again, you have to deal with. But it's all part of being a winning team and having that strength within your room to take care of one another. So at the end of the day, he gets the 2-game suspension. The thing that really I'll be looking for in this game tonight, Mike, is the Tampa Bay power play. Nothing in this series, really. And the game the other night, we could talk about 2 goals in 11 seconds on both sides. We could talk about a penalty that was missed. There was a penalty that wasn't missed, and it was a 5-minute major for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they could not really even generate chances. They have to be able to make things happen when they get power play chances. What are you seeing? Because it looks to me that this team is out of sorts on a very good power play unit.
Yep. Well, that's got to be an advantage for Tampa Bay, their power play in any series, you would think, because it provides them with so much offense. Like Mike Johnson, I watched the breakdown he did on Florida's penalty kill on NHL Network a few days ago. He did an excellent job of that, just showing how they're pressuring Tampa, the great sticks that they have on the PK as well, not really giving them a lot of space to be as creative and good as they are. Just from the number side of things, I look at that whole thing runs through Nikita Kucherov, and he's probably the best facilitator on the power play in the league. So in the regular season, he's averaging almost 4 passes into the slot per game. That's all strengths. That led the NHL. Massive driver of assists, obviously, when you can set your teammates up in quality scoring areas. He's down to 1.5 a game against this Florida team. That's massively cutting that down.
Yep.
So he doesn't have the space. His ozone possession time is down from 1 minute and 9 seconds a game to 47 seconds a game. Like if you just look at things related to some of these star players and the touches they usually have, the looks they usually have or create, they're not there the way that they normally are. And then get into the psychological part. How does that affect the player's performance overall? And there's a whole rest of it. So I think Florida deserves a lot of credit. And on the offensive side of things for the Panthers, like they more than any team dump pucks in. They are the best, not only in terms of volume because of how often they do it, the best in percentage of recovering those dump ins. And they know how to create offense from it. And we saw a huge goal in that last game as a result when they quick striked off the face-off at center ice. So they're a lot to handle. And Tampa Bay, I don't know. Vasilevsky, not bad, not great.
Yeah.
Kind of thought he'd be better. Maybe the series is 2-2 if that's the case.
Yeah.
So interesting one. I didn't see it coming. Tampa Bay is my pick to win the cup. Like I said it before. I'll say it again. Didn't think they'd be down 3-1 to this team.
Well, I think, you probably fell into a little bit of the trap that I fell into and many others with the Florida Panthers. They finished the season with injuries and suspension, and we weren't sure. And it's hard to win back-to-back years. They would be if they could get there again. That's 3 times to the Cup final in a row. Not easy to do. But the Florida Panthers, when there's stakes and when they're playing for things, they made the statement at the end of the year, right? We don't care where we finish. We'll play who we play. We'll play them wherever you want. And they're showing that they still have that championship blood flowing through their veins. Tkachuk is back. This team is rolling right now. So we'll see where things go. Florida has that chance to to finish things off tonight. We'll see if they can do it. You know, you mentioned Nikita Kucherov, and he got some good news today that the Ted Lindsay Award finalists were announced. Now, this is the award that the players vote on for the Outstanding Player in the Year, and you can see right there, Nikita Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, and McKinnon's Colorado teammate, Cale Makar, all the nominees. And it's very rare, Mike, that you have two players from the same team nominated for one of the major awards. Take a look at it here. Wow. The last time that it happened in the Hart race, which is akin to the Ted Lindsay, of course, the Hart race, that's voted on by the Hockey Writers Association. Hasn't happened in just 25 years with Lemieux and Yager. I think they're pretty good guys, if you're going to do it. It happened twice in the Calder race, but it doesn't happen very often. I mean, both guys are deserving. And, you know, another thing about this, Mike, is that defensemen just do not get the representation in the Hart or in the Lindsay, and to have Cale Makar nominated here is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's not that it's not deserved. Of course it is. It just surprised me when I saw his name on it. When you think about, you know, Draisaitl or Hellebuck, other guys that are going to be in the mix. So I think it's great that he was recognized. I always say this about this award and why I like seeing who's a finalist for it. The players know, right? Mm-hmm. Players know who the best players are, and usually they're you know, pretty right about it. And the other guy that I think might not even be a Hart finalist is Kucherov, which to me is insane because of the year that he had in Tampa Bay. I'd pick him to win the Hart Trophy. So I'm glad that he was named a finalist as well.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing again, and I'll just close on this, Mike, but you know, these awards, they're voted on at the end of the regular season. So now we announce, you know, the finalists, right? And we announce them after we've had a week or so of playoffs when the narrative shifts dramatically, right? And some of these individuals are struggling or their teams aren't doing as well. I mean, I think you have to remember these things are voted on at the end of the regular season, and any take that you have about how things are going now, I mean, you know, it's a different ball game. So congratulations to these three individuals for Kucherov, MacKinnon, and Makar, nominated for the Ted Lindsay Award. Ted Lindsay, you know, one of the legends, certainly, of hockey, and a very prestigious award to be nominated for. When we come back, the Caps at home tonight, trying to close it out against the Habs. Can they do it? We'll talk about Ovi and Company next on First Shift.
NHL Tonight. First Shift is presented by Navy Federal Credit Union, official military appreciation partner of the NHL.
Welcome back to NHL Tonight, First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Got a tweet here from Stephen Wino. Taylor Radish doing extra skills work after Caps morning skate. Alexei Protas came off early, as did Ryan Leonard. A little lineup hint for game number 5. So that would certainly be big news, Mike, if Protas can get back in the lineup. He's been out for a couple of weeks now, got injured late in the season. This is a guy that put up 30 goals, 36 assists, and all 30 goals, none on the power play. And he's such a big man. The big just get bigger if he comes back in. What can he add?
Yeah, well, you made a great point about none on the power play, which for a 30-goal scorer doesn't happen often. But it shows you how good he is at 5-on-5. And that's the first, when I saw that he was going to be back likely in this game, I'm like, oh, that helps your 5-on-5 offense for sure. So that's a big get for the Capitals. He's such a good player for them. And, you know, big guy. Again, watching this series, like that Tom Wilson hit, to me, that just shifted that entire game on Sunday. That's been kind of the story of the series. Montreal was a lot better at home than they were in the first couple of games, but the Capitals are still, they've been able to push themselves into the areas you need to go to on the ice at both ends of the ice. And Montreal, you know, power play gets going a bit. It's good. First line's been good, but man, the Capitals are just big and heavy, and it's not going to shock me if this thing ends tonight.
You know, you see the hits total there, right, Mike? And like the hits, it's, you know, the teams, you know, they do that in their respective buildings. 140 to 131 in favor of the Canadians, right? I don't think all hits are created equal. And I would suggest that the hits that the Capitals are delivering certainly have a lot more impact. You brought up the Tom Wilson hit. I mean, that hit on Carrier, who, by the way, is a game-time decision tonight. I'm surprised he's still alive, to be honest with you. I mean, that was a thunderous hit by Tom Wilson on Carrier. But this is, to your point, big, strong team, and there it is again. I mean, it's just frightening to look at. This is their calling card, the Washington Capitals, and this is really a way you win playoff series is by being big and strong in different areas. I was concerned about their defending, and maybe that will be a problem as they move forward in the playoffs. But you're right, they're just physical, and Tom Wilson is just a one-of-a-kind guy. People on other teams, fans in other places, they may not like him, but in their hearts, they know they would want him on their team.
Oh, yes, they would.
Yes, they would.
Would you rather not be respected than liked? Ideally, both. But Tom Wilson's not going to be liked by any other fan base. That's fine with him and the Washington Capitals and their fans. So think about, though, the past, like the maturation process for him of learning that, hey, I can't do this thing because I'm going to get suspended for 15 games if I do it. And just kind of walking it back and towing that line, still being physical and all the things that make him great. But he's fast. Like, this guy was a first-round pick. He can play the game. He can score goals. Yep. Had a great year this year. Man, that hit on Carrier, I'm telling you, it was the same thing where you watch it and you're just like, oh, he might not be getting up.
Yeah.
That was a big one. And then they go down and score the goal, and comebacks on and all the rest of it.
Yeah, last thing on Tom Wilson. The first time I ever saw him, Mike, was at the Holinka tournament in, I think it was like 2011, 2010, 2012, somewhere in there. And he was just a straight line player. He went right there. Canada was playing Sweden. He went right through the crease. Net went flying. Goalie went flying. He hasn't changed. That's who he is.
Nope.
And big, strong player, and really tough to handle. We'll see if the Canadians can deal with him any better tonight. We come back. There's a little drama brewing in Toronto. Steve Kouleas will join us to talk about that next on First Shift.
Are you hockey's biggest fan? Enter for a chance to be NHL's 4th Star of the Year, presented by Geico.
A 3-0 series lead is now 3-2. Ottawa with an overtime win in Game 4 and a convincing 4-0 whitewash of the Maple Leafs here in Toronto in Game 5.
I get it. It's all I hear around here is core. The core 4. But it's on everybody, the team. We're a team, and, it's on the whole team, not just 4 guys.
I love Craig Berube. Manage that message, Craig. Good job by you as the head coach of the Leafs. But you can see here, there's the noise. The Toronto Maple Leafs in potential series-clinching games since 2017. Just 1-13, power play dreadful, not much from Matthews, Marner, or Nylander. So panic in the streets in Toronto. We'll see if the team can fight that off. And with that, we bring in our buddy Steve Kouleas from NHL Network Radio. And Cooley, got to give the Ottawa Senators credit because they did play very, very well in game number 5. We'll see if they can push things forward here.
Yeah, and I think there's so many different storylines. Thanks for having me again. I'm actually from the camera underneath Gilles Gilbert at the old Boston Garden here. Bit of a different look today. Hopefully people remember that beside the U.S. healthcare sign. If you remember that, Ray Scapanello or whoever Ron Apple's sign with the big, remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, so listen, the Leafs are a team like the San Jose Sharks when Joe Thornton's team blew a 3-0 series lead. They've got the MO for it. They were up 3-1 against Montreal in the bubble. Yep. And they lost that series. They were supposed to beat Columbus, lost that series. I just saw your beautiful graphic there. 1-13. You know how hard it is to go 1-13 in series clinch-out games, 1 goal on the power play. Matthews has 2 goals in his last 15 games, going back to that series after the Leafs beat Tampa, which he was very good. He didn't score against Florida. How are you going to beat Florida if you struggle, if it is Florida, to beat Ottawa like this? So give the Sens credit. We have a lot of numbers to digest, whether it's Matthews, the core 4, everything else. At the end of the day, just win, baby. A famous footballer said that, Al Davis. So eventually, if you just win, you get the noose around your neck gone, at least for the time being. But it's up to someone to do something when games are on the line. 1 in 13, yeah. Chicken Little is all around me here. The sky is falling where I am, gentlemen.
Well, cool. The other side of it is the Ottawa side of it, right? And I think like watching this series game by game by game, Toronto, I know there's a lot of focus in that market of, well, the demons and it's going to happen again. But the Ottawa side of it, I don't know what you think. For me, they played kind of a perfect road game last game, and they've gotten better every game in this series. Now you go back to Ottawa. I was there for game 3. That building's nuts. Are you concerned if you're a Maple Leafs fan that, hey, this Ottawa team's kind of figuring it out game by game here?
Oh, absolutely. They've only kind of had one 6-2 rough game, and Linus Ullmark, he's getting better. A lot of the underlying numbers have favored the Sens, basically. They kind of flipped the script on the Leafs. The Leafs had puck possession. Leafs couldn't score, but had the high-danger opportunities last game. Listen, our sport is about execute or be executed. If Tavares scores there, or if they don't give up the short-handed goal, or if Ottawa, they've had 3 games in this series go to overtime. For the grace of God, what if they had won 2 of the 3 games? So I'm with you. It feels like 7, and this sport is about who gets the job done when it matters most. Brady said we'd be back for game 6, and right now, Brady right.
Yes, he is, and they've made some real good adjustments on their penalty kill as well. They've been much more aggressive. The Leafs 0 for 7 in the last 2 games, giving up 2 shorthanded goals. So time for the Leafs to make an adjustment there as well. We'll see if they can. Let's take it out west, Kouleas, and go to the Toronto of the West, Winnipeg, as they deal with their own pressure now. They're back home after dropping 2 games in St. Louis. But the good news is they get Gabe Vilardi back in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, first game since March 23rd. He has a history of injury issues. Staying healthy is a skill as it relates to former NHLers who talk about it. The power play needs him. Obviously, the Blues power play has been better than the Jets power play. He did lead the team this year with 12 power play goals, and they're going to need his 27 goals. And what it does is it slots the Jets properly. Ehlers is skating, but isn't there. So Iafallo, he can be a 4th-line right winger. He was on the first line in Vilardi's spot. And now that allows Niederreiter, Lowry, and Appleton to do what they do on the 3rd line, getting them back together and being in a situation where first line against first line, and the Shen line now will get Lowry, which means Nemesnikov gets the 3rd line, and that could open up something offensively as far as they are concerned. And 5-on-5 has been the Jets' foray in the regular season. We know that. It was going very well after the first 2 games. The Blues switched the script. We're not even talking about Hellebuck and his numbers. He said he will be better. Well, he better be. 24 goalies, right, Mike Kelly, have suited up in the playoffs this year. And analytically, Connor Hellebuck, your Vezina Trophy probably winner, is ranked 24th. He's even below Stuart Skinner, and that's saying something.
Well, what do we make of that? Because we saw how great he was in the regular season, and he was good at the 4 Nations as well. But you go back to last playoffs, like the Avs had a bunch of traffic in front of him. He said he couldn't see half the goals that went in. It was tough. And now we're kind of starting to see that the last couple of games. Does anybody know what to expect? Like he said, he's got to be better. He actually came out and talked, which he doesn't usually do, or didn't do last year much in the playoffs. Do you think we're going to see a different Connor Hellebuck in this game?
I'm worried. I'm worried. It's not, guys, this is not like he hasn't seen anything. They're all deflections. Look, the goal off Pionk's button in, that's one thing. When a guy like him is being beat clean, and then we say, okay, but they still won game 1. Fine. And he was best his game in game 2. But then when he's beat clean again and again, and what do we say, EJ? Your goalie better be your best penalty killer. Well, the Blues have eaten it up with the, 6 power play goals so far in this series, where Hellebuck has looked defeated. This is the part that's confusing for me. He's too good to be, well, he's not mediocre. He's below mediocre right now. So I'm worried. I think Battle of Ontario is probably going to go to a 7th game because that's the Leafs' MO. Right now, Connor Hellebuck has to flip the script, and the Jets are going to really need to do something they normally don't do this much. Really protect their number 1 like they're playing in front of their number 2. Think about that mindset. Who would have thought we'd be there again for the 3rd straight Jet playoff.
Yeah, well, they better win tonight because the St. Louis Blues have won 14 straight games on home ice, and they waxed the Jets twice in a row. So I think the Jets do not want to be in the position of headed to St. Louis down 3-2, but it should be a real battle tonight in the Peg. Let's stay north of the border and let's go to Vancouver. We got the news. Rick Tocchet, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to move on. Now the Vancouver Canucks have to look for a new coach. They've got, I think, a really busy offseason. It looks like Brock Besser's going to leave, which brings me to Quinn Hughes because he's got a couple of years left on a contract, but Jimmy Rutherford was quick to point out a couple of weeks ago, he said he wants to maybe play with his brothers. I mean, what's the future for Quinn Hughes in Vancouver in your mind, Cooley?
Well, I don't think that they know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if they're getting any return, the deal would be made now. The deal would be made now. And they've lost JT Miller. They've lost Rick Tocchet. They're going to lose Brock Besser. Demko has a year left. And they have to make a decision on Elias Pettersson. Maybe when we talk about fish or cutting bait, maybe the Canucks honestly think about cutting bait and going in the direction of a Gavin McKenna. I can't believe we're in this conversation, but I had a chat in the discussion room this week. EJ, I know you're a big fan. We got to get to the discussion room.
I'm waiting for the invitation.
Well, there you go. I don't want to play Brian Williams and play producer. You know what I mean? Bruce, I let Bruce do that role. So, but anyway, it's 1:30 in Newfoundland. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I think the best option is to deal now to get something. If they slow play this for 2 years, why would the Devils give anything up? They're going to get him for free. But now with the Devils being eliminated, Jack hopefully healthy next year, if you're going to get anything, the Devils' first-round pick next year, 2026, I would not let them lottery protected. They've got their own pick. Give me a better – I'm the best idea wins. What's a better idea from the Canucks to deal them now and get something, picks or prospects, as opposed to waiting? If they wait 2 years, they're getting nada. What did you say, Elaine? Nada. You're getting nothing. He'll go in 2 years. Look, I don't want to let him go. But if he is honestly in that situation where he wants to play with his brothers, the Canucks can't stop him. They can't stop him in 2 years.
Go nuclear and get Jack and Luke.
No.
Go the other way with it.
Very unlikely.
No, not likely.
Very unlikely.
It is crazy to think that this is where we're at, and the fact that I guess it's out there. So, and from team personnel as well, that it's out there for the captain of the team, no less. I suppose it sounds like it's kind of you got to put this thing. What happens with Quinn aside, where Vancouver's trending with Besser potentially leaving and Miller already gone and the coach already gone? Are we into full rebuild mode now? It would have been crazy to think of this maybe even a year ago, but is that where things are headed?
Well, I think so. I mean, I said this to EJ before. Philip Hedl? No. If you want JT Miller, we're not going anywhere anyway. It's going to be, Schneider, or it's going to be Will Cooley. I'm not taking Philip Hedl. It's just damaged goods, man. Give me something I can use, Yeah. And I think in this situation, sometimes it's hard to admit you're not there. But remember the old Toscado, Wayne said, this could be my last game in Ottawa. Oh, Quinn Hughes says, I want to play with my brothers. And he picks this year to do it when they miss the playoffs, and it's been Dan Murphy's law in Vancouver. Well, they got to do something. Or they could do nothing and lose them in 2 years. The puck is on your stick, Mr. Rutherford. The puck is on your Hall of Fame stick.
Well, I mean, the question will be there. I mean, like it was with Matthew Tkachuk, right? He wanted to leave. They had to move him out of Calgary. Didn't work out great. They got some pieces. It hasn't maybe worked out as well as they hoped. But at the end of the day, you're right, Cooley. The longer they wait, if they feel that he's not staying long term, probably the less they get in return. We'll see what they do. You got a pick for tonight? Where's the horn there? Where's the light?
It's right here.
All right.
I'm on a bit of a roll. I started the year like Buddy Biancalon in the 85 playoffs. But tonight, Caps win. Ovi scores. Caps are moving on.
All right. I wouldn't say that was a shocking selection there by you, but nonetheless, you went for two, so I'll give you credit for that. Good luck with those, and we'll talk to you next week.
Empty netters count, I'm told.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Well
yes,
said.
they do. All right. Steve Kouleas, thanks for joining us once again. Today, we come back, a little game of stretch passes. Which streaks will continue? That's next on First Shift.
NHL Tonight, First Shift, is presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. official military appreciation partner of the NHL.
Welcome back to NHL Tonight, First Shift, presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. Time for stretch passes, and with that, we bring in our erstwhile producer, J.D. Lindbergh. J.D.?
Here we go, boys. We've got to keep the shift short. 2 minutes on this final segment. Kells, starting with you. Stretch passes, will the streak stretch? Cam Fowler, cooking in the playoffs. Will the streak stretch to 6 straight playoff games with a point?
I think it will. Screenshots are still a bit of a problem for Winnipeg, and I think he's going to float one through, maybe hit a body, maybe score a goal. So, yes.
Boy, this is a tough one for me because I love Cam Fowler. He's one of my favorite guys in the league, just a good guy. But I think all good things do come to an end. I think it'll be a tighter game tonight, lower scoring. I'll say no. Ends.
All righty, EJ, going right back to you.
Right.
Anthony Beauvillier has a point in each of the first 4 games of this series. Will that streak stretch?
Anthony Beauvillier, yes, the former Islander among several of his former teams. I'm going to say yes tonight with Beauvillier. He's been one of those players that's come in and been a really helpful piece. I'll say yes.
I'm going to say no because EJ said yes.
There you go.
So I will say no. And there's a part of me, still a small part of me, that thinks, hey, the Habs, again, their last couple games certainly better than the first 2. Maybe they can surprise tonight.
Kells gets good TV. I love that. All right. One more final one for us in our final minute of the program. Kells, back to you. Your Tampa Bay Lightning. 0 for their last 14 on the power play. Will that streak stretch?
It darn well better not stretch. They better get a power play goal. So I think they're going to get one in this game. I think they're going to win this game. This is still going to be a series. Cooch is going to get it done on the power play.
I'm going to agree with Mike on this one. I'm going to say yes, but I think they're going to lose tonight. I think Florida's going to win and wrap it up. There you go.
Nicely done, guys. Good, tidy little stretch pass segment there.
Tidy. I like it. I like that word. We're running out of time, right, JD?
20 seconds left.
20 seconds. Well, listen, you get off. We don't need you on. I can say goodbye to Mike. See ya. Mike,
I thought JD was going to take us home here.
Well, he has, but not today, baby. Mike, thanks for the time. NHL Now is next. We will see you tomorrow. Enjoy the games tonight, everybody. Sorry, JD.